Hi, welcome to corePurpose. I'm really excited to see that you have joined us. This is our first attempt at rolling out the digitized version of a program that I've been teaching around the world in 19 countries. And so we're really excited about it. We teach a lot here in the United States as well, but this is the first time that we're putting on the internet. So you get to join us on this journey. And so thank you so much for doing that. I know it's going to be quite an exciting ride for you. Let me tell you a little bit about the history of why I wrote corePurpose, and then you can get a little bit of understanding of what you're going to expect also throughout this course. I had an opportunity of working for a large organization where I had access to a variety of different people from different economic backgrounds, religions, different ethnic groups. And I noticed that it didn't make any difference what background these people had. Most really struggled with sustaining quality of life. Most of them really tried hard. In fact, everybody wants to have a high quality of life, and they worked hard at it. Some people were able to attain it for a short period of time, but it was never sustainable. And so I thought that was really fascinating. And so I spent 10 years researching why people struggled with finding, sustaining, and really enjoying quality of life, and even replicating it maybe in other people's lives. And through that process, I was really surprised at what I actually learned, and that was most people didn't understand what purpose is. And purpose is a really big topic in some circles. It certainly is in mine. And I realized that, you know, if we don't have purpose in our life, what are we really living for? And so as I said, I spent 10 years researching that and really put together this program that helps people to discover their purpose. But there's so much more to it than that. And so I'm going to explain this over the next few minutes in this introduction before we actually crack open that book and get started. Okay, so here we go. Mark Twain said, "The two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why." We call that day two, because day two is a huge deal to all of us. Now, we all were born with a purpose, and that's something that we really need to remember. But one thing we all have to keep in the back of our mind as well is, did you know that about 1% of the world's population have actually discovered their purpose and they're living it? Now, that leaves us with, and it's simple math, it leaves us with 99% of the rest of the world who have not. Now, if you turn on the radio, read the newspaper, watch the news on television, it's very clear that most people really are unhappy in terms of quality of life for themselves. There's a lot of complaining out there, a lot of dissatisfaction. A lot of people feel disenfranchised with their life, and they've maybe been promised this is the way your life is going to be, and it really just didn't turn out that way. Well, I believe it has everything to do with our personal purpose. And so let's unwrap what purpose is a little bit before we proceed with this, so that we have a real clear understanding of what I'm talking about. So the best way to really understand purpose is to think about it as a seed. Now, I come from a country background up in Wyoming, and so my go-to seed is corn. You might live in another country where mangoes are really popular, and that's your go-to fruit. Or maybe it's apples or oranges. But anyway, the point is that I want you to think about a seed. And so what's in the seed? Just think about that for a minute. Everything that's in that seed is what that seed needs in order to reproduce more of its own kind, but a lot of it. And so the seed contains the DNA to become what it's designed to do. So in this case, the corn. So I plant a seed of corn in a healthy environment, and I can expect it to produce more corn. And so if I plant an apple seed, I can expect it to produce an apple tree with more apples. And so do you get the idea of what I'm talking about? And so that's what's so powerful about this, is that everyone, and we're going to talk about this later on in our course, everyone has been born. We have the DNA that says we have purpose. That is really exciting. And so for some of you who are out there saying, you know, I always wanted to do something with my life, but, you know, people said I couldn't, or maybe I lacked confidence with it, and I just decided not to do it, or the thing I wanted to do seemed so much bigger than me. We're going to address those issues because those are really important thoughts that you had, and they're not unlike what most people think about. So you're normal. Let's start with that. Okay. And so let's go back to the seed. So the seed is inside of you. You have the DNA to produce something bigger than you. Okay. And so understanding that concept with the seed, we learn 3 things from that. First of all, as I said, everyone was born with a purpose. And that, to me, that is fantastic. What an exciting thought and realization. We all were born with a purpose. It doesn't make any difference where you were born. It doesn't make any difference what your family name is. It doesn't make any difference what your economic position is. You have been born with a very specific and a very unique purpose. And so keep that in mind as we start going through this program. The second thing that I want to talk about is that you have all the gifts and talents that you need to actually make that purpose happen. Okay, now think about it with the seed. Remember, we go back to the seed as our example. The seed has everything it needs in that DNA. It just needs a healthy environment. But inside the seed, it has everything that it needs in order to produce more of its kind. And so that's you. You have all that you need. All the gifts and talents are already inside of you in order for you to produce this wonderful thing that we're calling purpose. Okay? The third thing that I want to address, which is really important, you can never be disqualified from your purpose. Isn't that awesome? I mean, think about that. You can never, ever be disqualified from your purpose. So let's go back to the seed. So let's say the seed of corn says, I don't want to be a seed of corn. I think that I want to be an apple. And so it gets planted, it grows, and it paints itself red. What is it still? It's red corn. It's still corn. Okay, just because it's got some window dressing doesn't mean that it's an apple. It means that it's still corn. So what happens, let's just pretend, let's just use our imagination, that some corn seeds came up and said, hey, corn, you think you're an apple, and you've been hanging out with the apples. And so because of that, you are no longer corn. Now, that's ridiculous, right? But we have to apply that to our personal life and realize, wow, you know, sometimes people have told me that. Maybe I've done some things in my life. Maybe there were legal issues. Maybe you were in jail. Maybe you had a divorce. Maybe you got involved in other issues that some people looked at you and said, you know what? You are never going to become anything. Your past tells you that you've been disqualified. So all these wonderful things that you thought you were going to do in life, all these great ideas that you had, all these talents and gifts that you had, I'm sorry, you're disqualified. You are never going to be what you thought you would be. Well, I want to tell you the good news. I want to be the person to tell you those guys were wrong, because you cannot ever be disqualified from the DNA that's inside of you. That's like saying, I'm sorry, you're disqualified from being a human. Okay, well, we can't be disqualified from being a human. We're human. And so for you, I want to encourage you. You can never, ever be disqualified from your purpose. Isn't that exciting? And so we're going to be really unwrapping that a lot. Now, some of the things that we're also going to talk about in this course is we're going to deal with issues that you have learned throughout your lifetime that have given you the wrong message in terms of how you can invest in yourself so that you can really use purpose for what it's designed to be used for. Because you were not only born with purpose, now think about that, you were also born to use that purpose to solve a social problem. So you've got purpose inside of you. It's not just for you to make a ton of money and live in a palace. No, that's not the idea. The idea of the 1% is that you're going to take your purpose, you're going to invest in it, develop it, and you're going to use it to solve a social problem, because the idea is that there's enough for me and others. Okay, so keep that in mind. We're going to learn about that. That's one of the topics that we really talk about when we go through this. And so we're going to talk about a lot of the other issues that actually will derail you as a human being from not only understanding what your purpose is, but how you can actually advance it, develop it, and use it for what it's been designed to be used for. Okay? And so we have a lot of exciting things to do. I think that you're going to really enjoy joining us here for Core Purpose. I'm excited. And so that was our introduction. Let's go ahead and crack open our books. And I say, let's get started.